Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Enzo Masia and I'm very excited to have you. Thank you for joining me. To those who are watching for the very first time, if you like the content, you're more than welcome to subscribe. And overall, for everyone, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe so that we can grow as a channel. And today I'm talking about self-actualization, the beginning. If you are new to this channel and you haven't been following the conversations, please watch my other videos that I've been sharing on this content so that you can get up to date, because the story and the journey is basically unfolding almost in chronological order, and you will miss out on some of the key things that I mentioned in my story and in my journey in my previous videos. But don't worry, I've got you. I will put a link over here so that you can catch up with some of the videos, and some of them will be linked at the end of this video. And so today, as I mentioned, I'm talking about coming into myself, and how that journey unfolded and where it started, in fact, because it was obviously quite the journey. It wasn't an easy process. It took time for me to begin the work, to get to that. And I want to pick up my story after I left varsity. Um, Post varsity, having spent, all those years in Cape Town, I came back home. I had failed my junior degree in Cape Town. And so when I came back home, I was really going through a period of depression. I was depressed because I did not know how to handle or deal with the failure. I knew that I had a game plan. I knew that when I got home, this is what I'm going to do to make sure that I wrap up the rest of the modules which are outstanding in my third year in order for me to graduate. However, even that journey did not, unfold according to my expectations. It didn't unfold, the way I had, expected, because I had to basically complete my junior degree with UNISA. And during that period when I'm at home, this is where I meet this gentleman, whose name let's call him X. For the sake of, you know, anonymity, so that, yeah, I don't get sued for, mentioning people's names on this channel. But I meet X, and I'm in town. I was actually going to town. I took a taxi from home. I was probably going to run errands in town, and I bump into X as I'm going through town, and X uses literally like the oldest pickup line in the book on me, and I fell for it. Okay, to plead my case, to be honest, I wasn't even, in that frame of mind. I wasn't even thinking that, anyone could possibly hit on me in that setup at home, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, X says, hi, don't I know you from somewhere? And I'm just like baffled. It's literally in town. It's very busy. There's a lot of people moving around. I wasn't really very big on crowded spaces, so I just wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible. And so, X is like, don't I know you from somewhere? And I'm like, I don't know. And then he introduces himself and, makes some small talk. The long and the short of it is that X and I exchange phone numbers, and X and I start talking. And for some reason, X would send me a lot of emails, and he would send me a lot of emails that were very spiritual. And given what I was going through, I felt like those emails were ministering to me for some reason. I felt like those emails were really like, speaking to me. um and mind you, at the time, post varsity, I was in a relationship with a particular woman, and it was very serious, and we were considering the possibility of marriage. And so I had met now X, and X is talking to me, and you know, X is basically like sending me inspirational emails every other day, And I'm like, oh God, I don't know where this man is coming from, but he's literally speaking to my situation right now. He's speaking to, everything that I'm going through. And before you know it, X and I are in, a relationship where dating. X is coming to my house, picking me up. And even my mom noticed that, I'm spending quite a lot of time with this guy. And, but she couldn't make sense of it, because I remember this one time X got a cold and I was so stressed. I was so stressed. I needed to go and see him. So I tell my mom, I'm like, this is what's happening with, X and I. Can I please borrow a car? I need to just go to his house and see him. Da, 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 da. And I was in distress. You could tell that I'm really stressed about it. And my mom agreed. And yeah, I went to X and, to go and check on him. And he was okay. And I came back home. And yeah, so that's how I got into my first official, you know, um, gay relationship, if you will. And it was the most exciting. It felt liberating. It felt like for the first time in my life, I was able to be free, or whatever feeling that was inside of me, I was allowed to let it find expression in the context of that relationship, obviously behind closed doors, because, at that point, I was still, hiding, the fact that I was even in a relationship, etc., etc. I didn't even talk to my mom about it, but I think she knew that something was up, because at some point, she was insisting that I need to go back to Cape Town and and spend time with the person that I was seeing then, which she knew about, which I told her about, and so that's when that journey for me began, and so that relationship didn't really last very long, because there was still a lot of internal conflict within me. There was still a lot of, like, turmoil regarding, is this right, is this not, is this where I'm supposed to be, etc., etc. And unfortunately, that relationship was on the receiving end of all of that. And it ended sadly, because I confided in my pastor about it, and naturally it was like, you need to end it, immediately, etc., and blah blah blah. And and then I got into my very first long-term relationship after that, and now things were becoming real, because, it's like, okay, the first one could have been some sort of, experimental thing where you not really sure what you're doing, or you're still trying to figure yourself out. But now you're in this relationship with this, other guy, let's call him Y. And it's serious, you want to commit yourself to him, and he's committed to you. And so we went through that relationship, and it was quite the longest relationship of my life. But the early stages of that relationship, I have to be honest, were very much, they were challenging, and the bulk of it was literally on me, because I was doing like a back and forth, getting in and out, getting in and out. Oh my gosh, this is right. Oh my gosh, this is so wrong. God hates me. God doesn't like this. God, 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 God. And which really brings me to the point of just, you know, when you get to this stage in your life where you want to explore relationships, etc., it's very important, um, for you to actually know and understand who you are, and be comfortable with that, um, before you actually get into a relationship. Be clear about why you want to get into a relationship, and why you want, you know, to explore, in that regard. Because for me, I was very confused during that time, during that period in my life. This is in my 20s now, in my early 20s. There was a lot of confusion, and as a result, a lot of people were impacted by that confusion, including, the lady that I was dating and that I wanted to build a life with. And she basically also just became a casualty, in this whole situation, because I was just not not sure like what I wanted at that point. It was a whole back and forth, between her and why, and it was causing a lot of emotional distress, because one minute I would be in Cape Town, and I would be spending time with her, and obviously we're making plans, and to introduce her to my family, etc., etc. And then I come back home, and why is here, and why is mad as hell that I was in Cape Town. And I was caught in between these two people. This one now wants to fight this one, and this one is also pissed. And it was a whole emotional roller coaster for like all of us, which could have been avoided had I, taken the time to do the necessary work, to get to a point of understanding who I was, or rather getting to a point where I'm comfortable with my sexuality, and I understand exactly what it means and what it is, and so I went through that period, and it's definitely something that I reflect on, with deep regret. And I'm grateful that um, I got to a point where I I I was beginning to accept who I am, and beginning to understand that, okay, even though I've been dating women, and I have a dating history with women, um, I'm actually gay, and I want to be with men. I love men, and I want to spend the rest of my life, with another man. And getting to that point for me was really not easy. As you can imagine, the situation was really volatile, and I eventually, worked up the courage to come out to the lady that I was dating at the time. Um, And initially, in terms of the way that I had explained it to her, I told her and I reassured her that I would still want to be with her, and which was, something that would prove to be difficult, when that journey unfolded. And so when I told her that, this happened, etc., and I told her, in fact, during my relationship with X, um, and so she forgave me, and we basically sort of tried to carry on after that. But once I got into a relationship with Y, things just became more and more difficult, and I had to be honest with myself, and it was quite difficult. Even now, thinking about it, I'm feeling very emotional, because it was a very difficult time. My mom had passed on, um, during that entire period, and so shortly after that, then I brought the lady in question to meet my family. And by my family, I mean she met my aunt, and we had lunch with my pastors, to introduce, the person that I was now considering the possibility of getting into a relationship with. And then shortly after that, after having had conversations with, my pastors, and also just having reflected on my own, I decided that, um, it would not be best for us, to continue, with marriage, and that, I am basically accepting that this is who I am, and this is the journey that I need to take. And I'm so grateful that, even through that, in as much as she also went through her own internal turmoil, in that regard, she was still able to come back to me gracefully, and we could embrace each other, even after all of that, and be good friends. To this day, actually, we are still good friends. And I mean, I'm so grateful for that. It truly is a blessing, that we can still be able to do life together after all of that, and after her knowing who I am now, and the life I'm leading now. contrary to the plans that we had made, that we would have together. So that's how, that journey unfolded. But even as, it was unfolding, it wasn't as easy. But I'm grateful that, for the longest part, once I had accepted who I am and I was comfortable with my sexuality, I was able to be in a meaningful relationship for over 10 years, with X, and um, and that is obviously, the result of, having understood myself, and having accepted, my sexuality. So for someone who is struggling, with their sexuality and doesn't know how to, um, come out or begin the process of just even accepting it internally, I would definitely recommend that, you speak to someone, find a counselor. If you can afford therapy, go to therapy, so that they can be able to help you work through it, work through all the emotions of confusion that you're going through. Um, and also, hopefully, they can also help you deal with, the spiritual dogma that you are fed all your life, um, regarding homosexuality, and what it means. Um, so that, because I think for the greatest part, I think what was affecting me, a lot when it came to accepting who I am, was that internal conflict to say, oh my goodness, but scripture, oh my goodness, my pastor, etc., etc. And so that is why it's very important when you go to your pastors to talk about your sexuality, be clear about, terms around your sexuality. You are not possessed by a spirit. You are not possessed by a demon. um you being homosexual is not demonic. You don't need, you don't need deliverance. you know um I've heard of many stories where people talk about how when they came out to their parents and they took them to their spiritual oversight, and the first point of call was the fact that they needed to be prayed for, they needed to be delivered. You can stop fasting, for God to take this spirit away from you. You can stop, consulting, spiritually, um, for this thing to be taken away from you. This is who you are. Embrace it, and be careful as well around how you nuance, certain words, and around your sexuality. Be very clear that you are gay or bi, or whatever you are within the LGBTQIA plus. Articulate that very well. If you don't know the concept and you're not very clear about it, do some research, and get to understand what each one means. And I know that as you do that, you will find the one that resonates with you most, because at the end of the day, you are the one, who is on your journey. You know who you are deep down inside, and nobody can tell you, otherwise, and nobody can confirm that. Um, for you. But if you're not very clear, as to who you are, and how that finds, expression, practically in real life, you can be a victim of spiritual manipulation. You can be a victim of, of bullying, because I regard this as bullying in a way, because people will tell you that you are confused, that you don't know what you want, you don't understand who you are, and based on that, they will decide what is best for you. So it's very important to just take your time. If you're not ready to come to terms with who you are, take your time. Nobody has to rush you. You don't have to be in your 20s to come out. You don't have to be in your 30s. In fact, you don't even have to come out at all. Some people never come out, and I completely respect that, and I understand. For whatever reason, some people don't want to come out. They don't want to have conversations about coming out, and that's okay. But it's very important for you to acknowledge who you are to yourself, to meet yourself, so that you can be comfortable with who you are. And because that whole process impacts how you show up to the world. It impacts how you rise up in the world, and how you are able to let your life find full expression, in the world. You don't want to live your life, constantly, checking yourself, constantly monitoring yourself if you are saying things the right way or if you're moving the right way, etc., and whether or not people are noticing those things. So without further ado, I think I will conclude this video here. I hope that it helps someone, and I hope that it enlightens you on your path to self-actualization. And truly, the path to self-actualization is continuous. I'm still developing, and discovering things about myself. But I'm grateful that the aspect of sexuality is now solidified. It's settled in my spirit. I understand that, and it's finding its outworking even in my journey right now in my 30s. It's finding, its full expression, in every sphere of my life. And I'm grateful to God for that privilege, for that opportunity to be able to experience that in my lifetime. And so until next time, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe so that we can grow. Yeah. Cheers.